Studies of the brain show that the pleasure centers of our brains actually light up more when we share and care than when we win and dominate. Every single modern progressive social movement has challenged the same thing: a tradition of domination. Is all this cruelty, insensitivity, destructiveness inevitable? As we're told, as we talked about, human nature, right? Or are there alternatives? And if so, what are they? What my research, my multidisciplinary, cross-cultural, historical research has been about trying to answer specifically the question of transformation from what to what. That has required really stepping out of conventional social categories like right, left, religious, secular, Eastern, Western, Northern, Southern, which one of my colleagues actually has called weapons of mass distraction. Why? Because they fragment our consciousness. And yes, I found that there are alternatives. There is an alternative. What I've introduced is a new, more inclusive and holistic way of looking at our social, economic, cultural systems, because that's what we need to start with to create a better world. And this is the new lens of the partnership domination social scale, which I want to add is the impetus for the growing partnerism movement to accelerate the shift from the domination side to the partnership side. Now, the good news is that we don't have to start from square one to move to partnership-oriented societies again. And I say again, because there is today enormous evidence that for thousands and thousands of years in our prehistory, societies oriented more to the partnership side of the partnership domination social scale. They were not ideal, but they were more egalitarian. They were more gender balanced. Children were not terrorized into submission. Violence, starting with the family all the way to intergroup relations, was not the norm. We're learning from archaeology, anthropology, linguistics, even DNA studies that warfare is at the most 5,000 to 10,000 years old, which is really, if you think about it, a drop in the evolutionary bucket. I have confidence that we humans are very creative, very creative. Look, everything around us is a human creation, and I don't just mean the furniture and the houses. I mean our culture, our economic system. They're all human creations. The first step is understanding that capitalism and socialism are outdated. They came out of early industrial times in the 1700s and 1800s, and we're in the 21st century. GDP is a mess. It includes activities that harm, even take life, selling cigarettes, unhealthy foods, plus the resulting medical and funeral costs. They're great for GDP, but GDP fails to include the huge economic value of caring for nature and for people, despite reports like an Australian one showing that if the unpaid caring work in households were included, it would be 50% of the reported GDP. This is why my organization, the Center for Partnership Studies, is developing new metrics, a social wealth index, which differs from both GDP and most GDP alternatives, as it's geared to our knowledge service age, showing the enormous economic value of caring for people starting at birth and caring for nature. A team of economists is developing this index so that business and government policymakers finally have the missing information they need to make sound and equitable decisions. And I should add, so that women who still perform most of the care work for free or very low wages are no longer the poorest of the poor worldwide, and everyone has a better quality of life. So I invite you to join me in this movement from domination toward a caring economics of partnerism. And there's more information at centerforpartnership.org. Let's build a new partnerist economics that supports caring for ourselves, others, and our Mother Earth. Let's do it for our children and generations to come.